Most retirees don't feel stressed because they are running out of money. They feel stressed because they don't know if spending is safe. They check their accounts before making small decisions. They hesitate before enjoying things they waited years for. They replay purchases in their head afterward. This constant second-guessing is exhausting. And it's one of the most common emotional problems in retirement. Retirement spending feels different than spending during working years. When you're working, income keeps coming. If you spend too much one month, you adjust the next. In retirement, spending feels permanent. Every dollar spent feels like a dollar you can't replace. This creates fear, even for people who have saved well. Over 15 years of working with retirees, I've watched this pattern repeat itself countless times. Someone retires with $700,000 or $1 million, or even more. On paper, they should feel comfortable, but they don't. They agonize over whether they can afford a vacation. They debate for weeks about replacing an aging appliance. They feel guilty about dinner at a restaurant, not because the money isn't there, but because they have no framework for knowing what's safe to spend. That uncertainty creates constant low-level anxiety that never really goes away. I've sat across from people who have more than enough money, but they're living like they're barely surviving. They skip experiences they've looked forward to for years. They avoid spending on things that would genuinely improve their quality of life. They deny themselves constantly. And when I ask why, the answer is always the same. I don't know if I can afford it. But the real problem isn't affordability, it's clarity. They simply don't know where the line is, so they stay far away from it, just to be safe. The problem is not spending itself. The problem is uncertain spending. When retirees don't know what's safe, every decision feels risky. This is the spending mistake that creates constant stress. People spend without a framework. They don't know what level of spending their plan can support. They don't know what's flexible and what's not. They don't know how today's spending affects tomorrow. So instead of confidence, they feel anxiety. Let me give you a concrete example of how this plays out. Someone retires with a portfolio that could reasonably support $50,000 per year in withdrawals. That's what the numbers say. That's what their plan suggests. But they never internalize that number. They never translate it into daily life. So when they consider spending $3,000 on a trip, they have no reference point. Is that too much? Is it fine? Will it hurt them later? Without a framework, that question has no answer. So they either avoid the trip entirely or they take it and worry about it for months afterward. Neither option feels good. This uncertainty causes people to swing between extremes. Some retirees overspend early. They assume everything will work out. Others underspend aggressively. They restrict themselves unnecessarily. Neither approach creates peace. Overspending creates fear later. Underspending creates regret now. The retirees who feel calm don't avoid spending. They understand it. They know their baseline income. They know what expenses are essential. They know what spending is adjustable. That clarity removes emotion from decisions. I've worked with retirees who have less money than others, but feel far more secure. Why? Because they've done the work of defining what their spending structure actually looks like. They know that $40,000 per year covers all their essential expenses. They know that another $10,000 is available for travel and discretionary spending. They know that anything beyond that starts eating into their long-term security. With that knowledge, decisions become simple. A $3,000 trip? That fits comfortably within their discretionary budget. No guilt, no stress, just a clear yes. A $15,000 renovation that isn't urgent? That's outside their discretionary range. They can either adjust their plan or delay the project. But the decision is informed, not emotional. That structure creates confidence. Another reason spending feels stressful is because people tie spending directly to market performance. When markets are up, they feel relaxed. When markets fall, they panic. This emotional link is dangerous. Markets are volatile. Life expenses are not. Spending should not change dramatically based on short-term market movement. That's why structure matters. Without structure, every headline affects behavior. I've watched retirees check their portfolio balance obsessively, 5 times a day, 10 times a day. Every time the market drops, they tighten their spending. Every time it recovers, they relax again. That constant emotional whiplash is exhausting, and it's completely unnecessary. Because short-term market fluctuations have nothing to do with whether spending is sustainable over decades. A 5% market drop in a single month doesn't mean you should cancel your vacation. A 10% gain doesn't mean you should suddenly spend freely. What matters is the long-term structure of your plan, not the daily noise of the market. The retirees who sleep well at night are those who've separated their spending from market movements. They've built a plan where essential expenses are covered regardless of market conditions. They've created flexibility that allows them to adjust discretionary spending when needed without panicking. That separation is what creates emotional stability. Another common mistake is treating all spending as equal. It's not. Some spending is essential. Housing, healthcare, food, utilities. Some spending is important but adjustable. Travel, hobbies, dining out. Some spending is optional. Luxury purchases, non-essential upgrades. When retirees don't distinguish between these categories, everything feels equally risky. But when you separate spending into layers, decisions become much clearer. Essential spending should be covered by guaranteed, predictable income, Social Security, pensions, stable withdrawals. Discretionary spending can come from more flexible sources. Portfolio growth, variable withdrawals, part-time income. This layering protects both security and enjoyment. Because when you know your essentials are covered no matter what, you stop feeling fragile. And when you know your discretionary spending has clear boundaries, you stop feeling guilty. The key to stress-free spending in retirement is separating needs from flexibility. Essentials should be covered by predictable income. Flexible spending should adjust when needed. This doesn't restrict enjoyment, it protects it. Because when essentials are secure, you stop worrying about survival. And when flexibility exists, you stop feeling trapped. Retirees who feel secure don't ask, "Can I afford this?" They ask, "How does this fit into my plan?" That shift changes everything. Confidence comes from understanding limits, not avoiding spending. I've seen this transformation happen many times. Someone comes in feeling anxious about every expense. They're restricting themselves constantly. They're not enjoying retirement at all. We work together to define their spending structure. We clarify what's essential, what's flexible, and what's truly sustainable. And suddenly they relax. Not because their financial situation changed, but because they finally understand it. They know what they can spend. They know what decisions are safe. They know how to enjoy retirement without jeopardizing their future. That knowledge is what creates peace. Retirement is not about saying no to everything. It's about saying yes without fear. It's about spending intentionally, not randomly. It's about enjoying the life you worked decades to build without constant anxiety about whether you're making a mistake. The retirees who navigate spending successfully are those who treat it as a planned activity, not an emotional reaction. They don't guess. They don't hope. They know. And that knowledge allows them to actually live. In future videos, we'll break down practical ways retirees structure spending, how to create flexibility without guilt, and how to enjoy retirement without constant anxiety. No hype, no pressure, just clarity. Because retirement spending should feel intentional, not stressful.